Welcome to Found Footage Friday. It's been a while, a long time. So, I was looking at the upcoming movies for 2024, and I saw the guys who are making this upcoming movie had some pretty big titles in their filmography, whether it was in the writer's chair or the director's chair. And it was like Quiet Place and that Adam freaking Driver 65 movie.
Yeah,
and
65, yeah.
And I went down and I was like, oh wow, okay, I've seen that. I know that. Oh, that's pretty well known. Oh wow, they've done quite a few things. This is interesting. And I came across a movie called Nightlight, which they wrote and directed it. And I was like, okay. So I clicked on it, and it said it was found footage. And I was like, wait, what? And of course, it was on Tubi.
Good old Tubi.
So, okay. I will say this up front. The movie is not traditional found footage, that's for sure. It's not found footage technically. But when we do think of found footage, we think of POV horror, right? And this is POV horror. Now, this is not from the perspective of eyeballs, like in some movies, like Maniac, right? Or Hardcore Henry, where we're seeing through the perspective of the person's eyeballs. This one, on the other hand, is through the perspective of a flashlight.
A flashlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that.
I definitely didn't expect that at all.
But it was a pretty bright idea, if you ask me.
I see what you did there.
Did you?
Yeah.
Maybe because you had light?
Illumination. Yeah. I think it's a cool idea, honestly. And I actually really like how it was used in this film too, because it's not like any old old flashlight.
Night bright.
It's one specific one. Like not all of the flashlights in the film.
Just one.
Just the one. And there's meaning to it as well, which was cool.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the movie and you are a big fan of POV style horror and you want to see something unique, right? Because this is something that found footage films always have the problem of answering. Why are they continuing to keep filming?
Yes.
And in just making it a flashlight, there's no reason not to, because there is no film.
Right.
They're just using a flashlight because it's dark out in those woods and they need a light.
Yeah.
So this just completely does away with that question altogether. And while you're kind of breaking the rules, it doesn't matter because there's no rules when you're inventing your own little subgenre here. Yeah. It's POV, so it's, I'm kind of cheating a little here by making it found footage, but it feels like a found footage film the entire movie. If the only difference would be is that it would just, on the other side, it would be a camera. But it is a camera, obviously, in reality. But, like, in the movie, they would just say it was a camera.
I would say
there'd be, like, very, very little difference because the camera has a light 99% of the time, right? That is the light of... That's usually the reason why they explain why they're continuing to keep filming.
Is that
there's a light and it's dark, right?
The other difference, too, is that, like, with found footage, people are very aware that they're being filmed, so there's always like the obligatory like stop filming me or whatever. So that's also a difference, because you don't have people interacting with like the camera, since it's not a camera, it's a flashlight,
and they're not talking to it.
But that's
which is great.
Yeah, what's cool about that is that it makes it feel like you're really like seeing the behind the scenes, like inside footage. You know what I mean? Of like a situation. Like it kind of has like a more like you're in the action in a very intimate and almost like
you're a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a great point. It's a fantastic point. I'm glad you brought it up because it's something I would not have thought to bring up. You're right, though. That's why this one works so well. Mm-hmm. is because we aren't dealing with any, and also, as we all know, when people are put in front of a camera, they act different.
Yeah.
And they showboat and they change their persona to act a certain way in front of the camera that they might not otherwise. So you're seeing the more true nature of people, which I like a lot. So this is a refreshing change for the POV style of horror, and I was a massive fan of this film. I actually really like. I'm kind of blown away that this one doesn't have more attention on it, especially with the names attached to it at this point. I feel like this could be repackaged and sold very easily from the creators or the minds behind A Quiet Place, and what, like, that would be so easy to do. And this film feels bigger. Like, a lot of found footage films feel very independent, feel like they have no budget. This feels like a studio's behind it. This feels like one of the Paranormal Activity sequels. This feels like, one of the like studio made found footage films that you can just tell there's a budget. There's a lot of like cool special effects and camera movements and stuff that a small independent crew could not accomplish.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we were both like super into this. And I also loved it too. I thought it was really, really just a cool film. And like it has a great atmosphere. Yeah. It really feels like the Blair Witch, like kind of like I was getting that vibe the whole time. It's not at all like the Blair Witch, but just like the feeling of the woods that they're in and everything was really reminding me, especially like the 2016 one.
Yeah.
And I was really into that. And I think that there's some super neat effects that are used.
Yeah.
Sparingly, but like very effectively.
Yeah.
And it was just, the story is really great too. And I don't know, like the characters are compelling and interesting, and like there's a fun one that's in there too that's like kind of funny. And I don't know, it was great.
So we are going to talk spoilers. This is Found Footage Friday, so if you have not seen the movie, now's your warning. Go watch it, come back, or just stick around and find out what happens. So as you had alluded to, I think that creating this new gimmick is not the sole purpose of the film, right? It's not like some big thing by any means, but to have the payoff that, and I guess this is my interpretation, you can tell me yours, but that, this entity kind of travels in light or through light. It has some kind of electrical field to it can generate, and primarily it's in the flashlight.
Yeah.
Right. It's what it's illuminating, the flashlight. And it ends up, of course, being because that was his flashlight.
Yeah.
Right. So that would make sense. And we see it in the very, very end that the flashlight kind of comes up and it's like levitating, and then it like leaves the flashlight and goes away. So it was like, yeah, that is the entity. So we're seeing through so if you really think about it, we're actually seeing through the perspective of the ghost throughout the movie.
Yeah, I think you're like, the ghost can move through electricity. And that is what's kind of cool, because I did feel like in the beginning, because it's like we know it's her dead friend's flashlight. It was like, okay, like that obviously has significance. Like I thought he was going to be like helping her. Like I was like, okay, there's going to be something where like whatever, but instead it's negative. So it's not really a twist, but it was cool to find out like, oh yeah, like we've been like looking through the perspective of like the entity or the ghost or whatever the whole time, because we were talking too a little bit. I don't think it's like his spirit, like I think there's a bunch of spirits trapped there, and I think that there's like one like evil entity that's like leeching on all of them. Like that black shape that we see throughout, I feel like it's not like it's like a perverted version of her friend, if you even want to go there. But I don't think it's really him at all. Or if it is him, it's like his anger and like sadness and everything that's left over. Like it's all the negative feelings that people are left with whenever they're, going to take their lives. But I did think it was cool that we're seeing through the evil entity's perspective.
I'd have to watch this again with the mindset of wondering if he is trying to save her and that the like evil entity that's out there can only get at you in the dark. And he's trying to keep her illuminated the best he can. But like when she loses sight of the light, she falls into darkness. I wonder, I'd have to look at it again to see if that's possible as a theory. I don't think it is, but I like it, so I want it to be true.
Yeah.
Very Alan Wakey in a way, but I don't think that's probably the case here, but it probably should have been, at least leaving the breadcrumbs for people like us to piece and cobble together. How nice and good of a person was Nia?
Oh my gosh.
She's a sweetheart, wasn't she? Why are all the girls in this movie like models?
I don't know.
And one of them's like supposed to be nerdy.
She's supposed to be the like least.
They didn't even
lesser attractive
this
one.
Is
and they're
one of
all
the
like super pretty.
This is one of the first movies we've ever watched where they don't even try to make this girl under.
No.
The whole like unappealing thing, instead of like glasses and putting her hair up or some crap like they do in the movies, this time they're just like, act a little more awkward and shy. That's gonna make you look unappealing.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't. I did not buy that part of the film for sure. Like it's like you said though in the beginning, like it has that like big studio, big budget feel, and a lot of that also has to do with like the cast because they're all like very attractive. Like they don't look like your average person really, which is one of the things that I do truly love about found footage films, and especially like independent films, is that you get more ordinary looking people.
Yeah.
Which makes it more believable, but this is not supposed to be like we said, traditional found footage, so it's fine that they cast like supermodels. But she does a great job though. She does a really good job, and there's some super creepy stuff that happens to her, obviously. And, I mean, they all die, of course, but when she's possessed and like killing people, all that's pretty cool.
There's some great use of scare tactics and reveals and that entity kind of like camouflaging itself into the walls and
in the
moving
tunnels.
around.
That was freaky.
The characters that you deal with in this movie are definitely insufferable. Not in a bad way, like some films. This is just kind of traditional. You're supposed to hate them. I don't know what I was supposed to make of the guy she's interested in, because he's kind of an idiot most of the film, and then there's this like one single little scene when everyone walks away and he thinks they're alone, and he like says something cute to her like, "Oh, I'm glad you came out tonight," and this and that, but like she's not there, but she is there. Right? He like kind of looks and then he's like, "Oh, I'm talking to myself," but she did hear it, and she was like over, like over behind him, like, "Oh my god, I think he actually likes me," kind of moment. But I don't know, the whole rest of the time he was just such a douche with his friend. And I get that he's supposed to just be like a young guy, and when you're around your guy friend, you're an idiot. And I don't know. It wasn't enough for me to really buy him as like a sympathetic, like, "Oh, I'm pulling for you guys. You know, he's a good guy under it all." That kind of shit. He more made me just want to punch his face.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately they're all just like people. Like they aren't the greatest, obviously, but the point is that she like wants to be a part of this popular friend group and like doesn't want to be with her real friend.
Yeah.
Especially in a time when he needs her, like, emotionally.
Yeah, but that was a romance.
Yeah, he wanted her romantically, but, like, just as a friend, though, still. Like,
yeah.
She kind of does abandon him and obviously feels very guilty for it because, she carries the keychain that she made, like, all the time. But the other guy, I know he had a couple funny scenes, like I was saying earlier. There was, like, some stuff that happened later that was, and, like, I'm totally blanking on it now, like, the specifics of what they were, but there was some kind of funny stuff that I remember he said, and I was like, because I wasn't expecting it. That's all. It was, like, at moments that were, like, pretty scary, and it did kind of break up the fear a bit, but it was sort of fun to have it in there. Is your shoulder okay?
Shoulder hurts so bad.
Oh no.
I don't know what I did to it. It's been bad lately, but man, it's bad right now. Tough it out for the channel.
For the channel.
Try to put it up here. Oh, that doesn't feel good.
No.
But yeah, I'm having a hard time thinking.
I also really feel like I said it already, but the woods in this were just, like, one of the big highlights for me.
Yeah.
I felt like it just captured, like, how creepy being in the forest at night can be.
Yeah.
Like, if you've ever been in the middle of the woods, it's so dark and, like, you hear so many things and you're so not used to those noises. And it's terrifying because even without, like, an evil demonic entity chasing you around, like, your brain makes things up. So having the actual evil there was even scarier.
They'll be fine as long as they don't go to the church.
But they all go to the church.
They all go to the church. And they all end up dying. At the same place.
Yeah.
There was a really cool scene that we were both kind of like, what, like, where the bodies started levitating.
Yeah.
We thought all 5 of them were gonna, like, levitate and make some kind of freaking symbol or, like, be all, like, in a circle or something, and that didn't end up happening. I think it was only, like, 2 of them that we ended up seeing. But man, there's just so many really effective, wonderful moments.
Yeah.
And I don't love everything going on with the characters. I do think that's probably the weakest part of the film, and had that been stronger, had they been able to not have everyone be so off-putting besides the main girl, I think it would have worked better. To have the blonde be a little bit more of a diplomat, somebody that kind of, like, can go between both and is like, oh, come on, and then Nia can just be like the classic bitch who's like, no, I don't like her, and then have the guy she's into, he could have been a little bit more charismatic with her and make us care about them a little bit more, to root for maybe their relationship and make it a little bit even more heartbreaking when we realize that this ghost in the past was, like, into her, and he's watching them have a moment, and then the lights start to flicker, like, you fuck, that could have set him off or something. So I just feel like there's some missed character stuff in here that could have elevated this and got us a little bit more emotionally attached to everything. But I did like, I don't know, the suicide tape. So I was saying this through the film, and it's not because this doesn't happen. It absolutely does. So I can't, like, sit here and critique it in a negative way like it's unbelievable. It's just my own personal stuff here. But, like, I just couldn't help the whole time being like, what a little bitch. Like, you really killed yourself because your high school girlfriend stood you up at the dance. Like, I get that some people are depressed and it's sad, and I'm definitely sympathetic to a degree, but man, I was pretty upset with losing my high school girlfriend too. I was real bummed, but man, just, they weren't even really that much of a thing, right? Like, I don't even know if they were a thing.
I think she was, like, his only friend. So there was definitely that. They were, or I don't think they were a couple or anything, but he was like making his move. And I was also thinking too, because obviously,
well, the beginning of the film, I thought he said, "I'm going to ask her to the dance," or like I thought, but he was already upset about something. I thought he was already bummed out.
He was already upset. Yeah, like in general, he was having a hard time.
Yeah.
And I thought too, this sucks that
we watched
I don't remember this,
ago.
But I'm wondering, I thought he said that he wanted to, like, because I know he was saying, like, sometimes I want to go into that forest, like, and just take my flashlight and disappear. But I'm wondering if he's, like, been there before and if it, like, infects you or something. You know what I mean? Like, so it makes you more likely to kill yourself. But besides that point, or that thought, like, obviously he has depression, and people who have depression, like, it doesn't really, you might be like, yeah, I wouldn't kill myself over my girlfriend leaving me, but like when you are, because it's an illness, so yeah.
I get it. I'm being way too harsh. You are being too harsh on him. I just can't fathom killing myself over someone not wanting to be with me, right?
Sure, I feel the same way, but I think that.
But I'm not him.
You're also not, like, clinically depressed too. So it's like your brain doesn't operate that way.
Sure.
So that's like the big difference. But
he needs help.
He did need help,
and it didn't come.
He did not get it.
No.
So this is the PSA: if you're feeling depressed, reach out.
Yeah, if you're suicidal, that's unnatural. I'm serious. That's not like our very basic core instinct is survival. That is literally at the absolute core of the human freaking genome, is like survival. It's all it wants to do. It's why cells reproduce. It's why we reproduce. It's why life wants to continue. It is the driving force of life. And so if you ever feel like you're wanting to die, it's unnatural. It's not normal. It's something's wrong. That's not how you're programmed to be.
Yeah.
Right? I get it sounds funny,
I only laughed because it was like,
no, it's funny. I get it.
It's not a laughing subtopic really, but we have dark humor.
I know it sounds like I'm like saying like you're unnatural. That's not what I mean by that at all. I mean that it's not, you shouldn't feel that way. That's not what you should feel.
We don't want you to feel that way.
Hell no.
And we don't want you to go anywhere.
Hell no.
Leave the planet. We want you here.
Life is precious.
Watching our videos and watching horror movies with us.
You don't gotta watch
hanging out with us.
Yeah. But if that's what makes you happy, stick with it for now.
It makes us happy.
But yeah. That's really it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I didn't take notes during this one. I was looking for my notes, couldn't find them. I couldn't find a pen.
Yeah,
I looked for like 10 minutes and I was just like, I'm done. I'm over it. Fuck it. And then we watched it days ago. And so that's a bad combo.
Yeah, we've watched actually not a ton of things since then, but a few things, and also just going to work and like the days. Things happen in between the movies.
Oh my god!
Unfortunately,
so much happened today.
Yeah.
Today was a rough day.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you remember anything after today. Yeah, I don't know why the psychos in movies always count to 100 when they play these like hide and seek games. Dude, who the fuck counts to 100?
They didn't though.
They don't at all.
They count to 100, and neither of them do. They both are like 1, 2, and then they like walk away, and I'm like,
Freddy's coming for you.
Yeah, but no, 100 is a long time.
It's forever.
It's a long time.
It's 1 minute and 40 seconds, really.
Did you ever play the game? This also kind of reminded me of this game I used to play called Manhunt. Have you heard of that?
No, but I've had one out for me.
You've had a Manhunt. I'm like asking you about it, and then I just like realized I don't know if I remember 100% the difference, because I was like, it's like hide and seek, and I was like, no, it is hide and seek. It's hide and seek. I was trying to remember if there was some difference. I think that, I don't know. I feel like there was some nuanced difference that I'm like totally forgetting now. But the reason I thought of it is because I had like a very intense memory of playing it on this friend's property that was like wooded, like around their house is all woods. And we were like playing in the woods, like just around their house, not like deep in them. But it was at night. And so I was like, oh, it's kind of like this movie.
This is like Coop and Raymer trying to explain the rules to basketball.
Oh yeah.
I shoot a shot from here. If you miss that shot, you get a letter. You mean like horse? No, it's not like horse.
I didn't take your ball.
All right, guys. That's it.
That's it. Watch this movie if you haven't.
If you haven't seen it, yeah, it's
cool.
It's definitely one of the cooler
cool
POV style films we've watched in a while. And stop being abnormal and wanting to kill yourself. You weirdo. All right, guys.
Bye.